All right, guys, today's video is basically an island update here and a planting strategies video update rolled into one. So I'm covering two separate topics here, but they're all tying in together. As far as soil improvements to the island, those plants right there tell me something has changed in the soil for the better. Last year, I had a very horrible spring and summer crop. If you wish to review that, you can look at the island videos I posted from last year. There's plenty of them on there. So here we have a large area of the island that is now growing in a much better condition. But at the same time, there are other plants in here that did not succeed, which I'll tap into the planting strategies video here in just a second. But as far as soil improvements, things are absolutely doing much better. This is a far cry from what I want right now, but the protein level has finally increased here. Growth rates are increasing thanks to this mat loosening up some soil and getting some big old nasty rocks out of here, which I still have some really big ones that are still buried in the ground right in here. And the only reason they're not up is because I can't take the tiller there, at least at the time, and now I can. So I will be digging those up before I do my fall preparations. But you can see the mat is still largely intact. And while I'm here, let's do a little more improvements. So we'll get rid of these two rocks here. Actually, these 4 rocks. So that'll help that area, give me a better chance at something to grow. But the mat overall is still largely intact. And this is one of the things that you learn with the mat. When you have a drought like I did for 4 weeks, this mat is not going to feed your crop. So that's 4 weeks of no fertilizer trickling back into the soil. The bacteria stops at the very top of the soil because it can become too hot. The bacteria also would like to have some moisture to go with that, and they can simply shut off and wait for moisture. So rain has returned, the mat has started breaking down again, and then the plants also responded to the water and the mat holding extra water. So this plot is doing absolutely much better. So now it is back to naturally fertilizing itself and moving in the right direction I want it. So again, this area here has a long way to go. Doesn't look like anything I want it to be, but it is getting closer to that mark. So you can see the back end. There's actually a little bit more light in there now. A tree top had snapped off in one of the storms and probably added maybe another 10% extra light in there, which it was one of the trees down this direction, and it put a small hole in there, and now the sun's hitting it. So another bonus in extra light. Okay, so let's talk about the planting strategies video, because depending on how you view this food plot, this might look like a success or a failure. So let's go back to what I started with when I planted this island. I stuck milo in here. I stuck sun hemp, soybean, deer vetch. There's also some volunteer chicory that's come back up in here. There's ladino clover. There might be a little bit of red top that has resprouted in here. And there's one other species that seems to be, oh yeah, there's some very small amount of turnips in here. I mean, extremely small. All that volunteer stuff that I had over here died. Drought just flat out fried it. All right, so would you view this plot as a success? And probably a lot of you may not consider that plot a success, especially with the list of plants that I put out. And I also stated in the video that I know darn well my soybean ain't gonna do good up here. So whatever I stick in my main plot may not necessarily work for this plot. This is one of the reasons why I waited longer to show this video and basically give you the proof that each food plot has a special situation depending on the surrounding conditions it's given. What plant out of all my plants has dominated in here? Do you see it? The answer is deer vetch. Deer vetch is thriving in these lower light conditions, and I also have much darker leaves in here than last year. It's not, the green level's not where I want it to be, but that tells me the fact that it is greener, it's growing taller, faster, and a much larger area is now developing much better versus just that spot right over there. That was it last year, and maybe one little slim patch over in here. Now look at it, we're everywhere in here. We have a little bit of a bad spot here, but if you notice, we are making progress. Now these planting strategies is important. So what may be a failure now can turn around and be a success in the future. Because this deer vetch, if I'd have told you the results last year, I would consider it basically a failure. Now look what's happened. The soil's gotten a little bit better, and the light, of course, now has opened up with that tree missing. But this part here wasn't affected by the tree missing. That is actually the soil getting better. Now, I will still say this, the Milo that you see is still considered a failure. What type of production do you think Milo should be? Compare it to my main food plot. That's all you got to do. And you can see how these different growing conditions has affected Milo. That is terrible. I had dwarf sorghums that have bigger heads than that now. Terrible. These plants need better nutrition. They also need a little bit more light. So it's kind of a 1A and a 1B as being an issue. And then, of course, rocks as being another. The mat is helping with those rock problems by holding moisture until I can keep building more soil. But if your planting strategies are failing, it might simply be because the wrong plants are being applied. So what plants are considered pretty darn good in low light? Obviously, deer vetch does very well. Clover can do very well, and chicory can do very well. So you can actually make a pretty darn good plot with a mix of clover, chicory, and deer vetch. Now, I know there's other plants involved that can probably perform halfway decent in lighting conditions like this. Even to some degree, the turnips were doing okay, but they were more long-leafed and lanky. Here's another sign soil is getting better. Soybean right here that has survived has thickened up and started producing a more normal looking plant up here. Now, if I had soybean mixed in this plot that looked like this, you might say that that's a pretty good success. And by the time fall gets here, there might be some pods available with that type of growth. Versus over here. So soybean, even though it seems like it's a great plant, which it absolutely is, but we run into many problems once we change the conditions that soybeans needs to grow in. So in the video, I stated I knew the soybean was not going to do well, and of course it didn't. There's literally just a handful of plants that has done halfway decent. Oh, that reminds me, another plant that could probably do pretty darn good in lower light conditions is actually cowpeas or mung bean. That might be another plant that you might consider adding up here. I saw proof of that last year. I didn't plant that up here this year, which I probably will change that tactic up for next year and put some mung bean up here. So back here we get back to more shaded areas. Your planting strategies are kind of struggling, right? We have issues here. Look at how weak everything is growing. And then here's deer vetch. Deer vetch is filling in. It's growing faster. The leaves have either doubled, tripled, or quadrupled in size because the rain has returned. But that is in low light. Over here, this is usually considered a low light situation, but it has improved some here. And this back end grew horrible. But what is surviving in here? Deer vetch. Some sun hemp is here, but it is so tiny, it is a failure. So I do not count that. Milo is a failure. So over 80% failure rate with other species is in here. The highest success, once again, is deer vetch. So planting strategies can play a big role in how your food plots turn out. This plot is a fantastic example in my book of what happens when light changes for food plots and soil conditions also change for food plots. The stump burning I haven't gotten to. This year was absolutely horrible when it comes to finding good burning conditions. Either there was a burn ban in effect because it was extremely dry, or it was raining. And it's just sat there. So as soon as that becomes available, that stuff will be burnt down, and hopefully before I sow any crop in here for fall and winter. So this deer vetch is going to create a new mat. I'm not really relying on the other plants. Oh, here we go. Looky here, we have a volunteer cowpea. Actually, that's going to be a mung bean plant. But even in lower light conditions, it's actually showing signs that it's growing better than most of my soybean in here. So if you want to up your odds, you can at least plant mung bean in here to try to help out. Or, you know, if you got some of these oak stumps right here, or not oak, I'm sorry, that's not oak, that's hickory. Hickory stumps, oak stumps, doesn't matter. If you got resprouts, letting those cowpeas or mung beans grow there is an excellent idea. That can help your planting strategy out quite a bit. So there you go, guys. Hard evidence, right? We have excellent growing deer vetch. It's not as dark green as I want it, but man alive, it is flat out growing. That's a little bit darker than last year. Probably will grow another foot taller than last year, maybe more, depending on how much more rain we continue to get. You can see sun hemp is actually stronger here, but there is a nice little pocket of light that comes in here more often. That is actually stronger looking than last year. So remember, whatever is a failure at the beginning, once this soil starts improving, it may start becoming more of a success. All right, guys, I hope this video helps you. And since this is my new camera, you're seeing brand new quality from this video, and I hope you enjoy it. This is coming to you in 8K. And I will try to keep upping the quality of my videos as I go along. You all have a great day, and hit that like and subscribe button.